All right. Well, let me just start off with a brief introduction. I can share my screen. This, and then I did show the correct thing, right? It's showing getting started with Doenet. All right. Well, great. Well, welcome to our getting started with Doenet virtual workshop for May. Um, so I'm Dwayne Nykamp. I'm a professor of mathematics at the University of Minnesota Twin Cities, and that's Anurag. Want to introduce yourself, Anurag?
Hi there. I teach math at Palm Beach State College in South Florida.
So we're excited you're here, and glad that you could join us. So welcome. Yeah, there we go. There's a welcome, official welcome now. Um, I guess I can give everybody a link to these slides. Let me put this in the chat in case that's helpful. If I can find the chat, there it is. We're not going to be using slides much, but whatever. If you want to see the Google Slides, there they are. Um, what happened? So first, I want to start off by just saying, what is Doenet? And um, we like to think of ourselves, a big part of it is just being we're a community of people who are of STEM instructors, authors, people who are excited about trying to find new ways of engaging people. And in particular, can we find ways of getting our students to interact with mathematical ideas? So that's kind of what we're about. It's an open source project with a community of people that you can get in touch with. Yeah, we have like a Discord and some other forums that you can get in touch with. From the software side, Doenet is a tool that we use to both create and to share these different activities. And I would say our sweet spot is something I like to call is interactive exploratory activities. So these are activities that you give your students, it gives them feedback. Um, not, but they can do things like, sketch a graph or move points around or try to draw something and they get feedback on it. It can also do like, standard assessment questions, what's 5 + 5 or things like that. But we like to think of like the sweet spot of Donut is these activities. I like to give them to my students actually in class. I mean, you can do whatever you want, but I actually have the students work on it in class with each other, and then they get the feedback and they raise their hand, and it sort of spurs the interaction with the instructor. So sort of like an active learning tied in with active learning in the class. People use it done in a lot of different ways, but I would say that's one way that it sort of stands out from other like homework platforms is this focus on this interactivity. Um, I just want to mention again, this is an open source, community-driven community. Community-driven. We don't pay people. We don't have like people that make assessments that are part of our staff. Instead, we encourage other people to make stuff. Everything's with an open source license or a Creative Commons license. It'll be freely available, and we hope this is why we have these kinds of workshops to introduce people to the idea that they can create, share, take things that other people have made, change them or tweak them for their classes, things like that. Try to make the barrier to entry as low as we can. So what is this workshop? So the idea for this workshop, we're not expecting that you've done anything in Donut before, so we're just going to try to start the very basics. We're going to say, okay, how do you go about creating a Donut activity? And also to give you pointers on, we won't be able to, like in 2 hours or hour and a half, however long we go, we won't be able to give you any really advanced instructions on doing things, but hopefully we'll point you in the right direction. What are the tools, what are the community you can connect to if you wanted to keep increasing and learning how to make a larger variety of interesting kinds of things. Our agenda for today is fairly simple. I'm just giving you an introduction and a tour. I'll give you a tour, but then we'll have three different sort of sessions where we'll talk at you for a little bit, but then we'll go into we probably don't even need to go into breakout rooms with just three people, but we'll give you time to work on, give you some exercises to work on, and we'll just repeat that cycle where we tell you a little bit about Donut, and then you can try to get your hands dirty. We'll talk about just sort of what is a Donut document like, give you some idea on making interactive answers, and then just a fun piece at the end, some kind of little clever ways that you can do to make us interesting assignments, things we call cascades and pretzels. So that's the plan. Why is it not working? Oh, there we go. I do want to say one quick note. So we're going to be talking, especially in starting with session one, about something called a markup language. So this will be using the term Doenet ML. It just stands for Doenet markup language. But this is the way in which you write activities. So it's not like Word, where it's like what you see is what you get, but you actually have to write down um, tags that are focused on basically the semantic idea. If you want to do a graph, you have to type in the word graph. You want to do different things like that, a function, stuff like that. So you write what you mean. And the nice thing about it is if you write it in the semantic language of Doenet, one of the advantages is it helps us make things fit all the accessibility requirements because you don't have to write them yourselves. You just kind of write what do you want to be displayed, and we'll figure out how to do it in an accessible way with some obviously exceptions. You have to like specify, things like captions for your videos and things like that, or for your own images. Okay, so let's start and actually get into Doenet. So hopefully you guys all have a web browser. You don't have to be logged in or anything, but if you can go in your web browser to beta.doenet.org like that. So beta.doenet.org is our new web page. Hopefully this data.doenet.org by the end of the summer will be the regular doenet.org. But this is where our new stuff is. So we're trying to migrate people over to beta.doenet.org. Doenet.org is also ours. It has more content on it, but where to go? Went away. Beta.doenet.org. It doesn't want to go to beta.doenet.org. What am I doing wrong? There we go. Beta.doenet.org. And once you get to beta.doenet.org, then click on right here where it says try writing. And this will get you to the scratch pad. Oh, why? Oh, I got that noise. Okay, hold on. I got to figure out how to get my right window open. Where are my notes? There we are. Okay. Everybody got that okay? Got into the scratch pad? All right. Um, the scratch pad is basically where we're going to spend all our time during the workshop. It has two panels here. The panel on the left is the code that you write. The panel on the right is the actual preview of what the document looks like. Most of our time in this workshop, we're going to be spent looking at the panel on the left and working on it. But for this tour, I just want to show you what some things do. So we're actually going to look at the panel on the right. And let's start with some graphical. I just want to show you some graphical things that Doenet can do. So if you click on load here in the upper hand corner, and you go to graphical answer examples, what it does, whenever you click on load, it's going to erase everything that you wrote in the left panel and replace it with with the new stuff. So if you click on graphical answer examples, then it loads in another little page just to kind of give you a tour of some of the things Doenet can do.
Like a template?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, you can work on this and play around with it. Yeah, we just sort of gave you a number of different like sample documents. I usually think of them as. Everybody got into this? Okay, so if you scroll on the right, we'll worry about the code later. And actually, we aren't going to get to these kind of graphical answers in this workshop, but you can just see the kinds of things you can do. So play around with this, see if you can answer the question. Can you move the point to the second quadrant? And then you can check your work by clicking over there. Hopefully y'all remember where the second quadrant is. And so if I move this over here and hit check work, then it tells me. So that's a pretty simple answer, but whatever, maybe you're teaching their students what the different quadrants are. And then go ahead and play around with the next couple examples. I'll give you a couple of minutes of just moving these functions and hitting check work, just to give you an idea of like, these are some really simple graphical things you can do in Doenet. So I'll just give you a minute or two to play around with that. And if you have any questions or run something gets confusing, you need to unmute yourself and ask your question. That makes sense. You get this to work, to move your points to the maximum and get those right, things like that. Draw your function. You can play around with drawing the function. I can't remember what the criteria is. Different kinds of things you can sketch. And you can see how Doenet can grade to see if you got the initial condition right, things like that. Okay. Then I want to show you one more thing before we actually start an actual session. If you go to this load button and go to pretzel demo, I'm gonna give you a preview of what we're gonna get to the end of it. This is the thing Anurag's gonna show you at the end, but let's give you a quick preview of what he's gonna try to show you. Go to pretzel demo, it's gonna blow away again. And if you made edits in the left-hand panel, they'll blow away your changes. You go to pretzel demo and you can read the instructions of how a pretzel works. Pretzels are kind of it's based off something called a circuit, essentially the same as a circuit. It's just a way of, I don't know, do you call it gamification? I don't know if you call it gamification, but uh,
Sure.
sure, just to make a slightly interesting way for students to answer questions. They basically have to pick whatever answer they like, whatever question they like best for starters, and you put a one by. So I'm not confident in my math, so I think I know how to do 1 plus 2. So I put the number one there, saying I want to start with 1 plus 2. Last I checked, 1 plus 2 was 3. So then I have to go through and look at my answers. I'm going to do this in a two-column format. So that'll show on the screen better. And then so my answer is 3. So then I put a number 2 by the 3. And then you keep going. Hopefully this is a 6. So I put a 3 over here. 1/2 of 1/2 is 1. Where's a 1? And you fill that in, and if you check your work, it always says you're wrong until you get all the way through. But once you get all the way through, if we say it's true, so that's 5. Now where's my false? That's 6. Then cosine of pi, 0. Factor of that, hopefully that's -1. Is it -1? Yes. Okay. So then that becomes, wait, I put a 0 there. See, I do like your students do, Anurag. You put the 0. I'm supposed to put a 7 there and then an 8 there. And I got it wrong. What did I do wrong? Did I do something? I must have got one wrong. Wait, where'd this x+1 go? Oh, it's -1. Oh, I don't know what cosine pi is. There we go. 11, 8. There we go. Cosine pi, not cosine pi over 2. Make sense? All right. Um, so that's we're gonna head to that at the end. Before we get on, I just have a question. Where's my slides? Uh, I'm gonna paste this in the chat. Just curious. You can enter in the chat just your answers to the question of this if you feel like it. Just to hear a little, we give you a chance to tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you hear about the workshop? What's your experience of creating online homework problems? And what do you hope to learn from this session?
Ladies first.
Anybody can type whatever they want.
Oh,
You don't
okay.
have to type. You can just type in the chat. There's only three people here, so you could just say it visually, but or uh not visually, what do they call it? Orally. Well, when you guys are doing that, I will stop sharing so Anurag can queue up for what he wants to do next.
Once you're done sharing, I've shared a link in the Zoom chat. I'll share my screen as well. That's where we're heading. Alrighty. So I am going to talk about just the editor window and some basics of Doenet first. If you're familiar with HTML, some of these things should look familiar. If you've done pretext, or if you've written things in pretext, then this should be very, very familiar. Um, but I did not know any Doenet, or I had not programmed before either. Took a programming class in high school, maybe one in freshman year of college or undergrad. But it's very, very simple to pick up. So, the first thing I want you to do is not worry about anything other than there are two panes, one on the left, one on the right.
And
There are things.
I'm going to interrupt you. I'm sorry. When we get the link, it's a read-only view. So you actually want them to go and click on add to and then load into script. Are you going to have them edit it, right?
Not this one.
Oh, okay. Okay, fine.
I just shared this for the sake of sharing it, but
Okay. I thought you were going to have them edit.
this
Fine.
one, I guess, just follow along what I'm asking on the screen.
Okay, fine.
So there are things that are happening on the left-hand side. There are things that are happening on the right-hand side. And to start us off, I'd like for you all to tell me what you notice. Feel free to unmute and share. There's no right answer. Well, there are right answers. There's no
You've
wrong
got
answer.
regular text. It looks like option two is italicized, and then the X plus two might be a math text, and then option three looks bold and new line for each one.
Other thoughts?
The title makes the text bigger. It looks like EM does the italics. M does the math, and alert does the bold.
Anything else?
I can't see the code for option three. I don't know if. Oh, there it is. Where's option? Okay, I got you. Thanks for highlighting it. There it
I,
is.
I did that for a purpose, and no one's mentioned it yet.
The paragraph? Or
Well, there's actual white space in the middle here that does not seem to be reflected on the right-hand side. Yes? So what happens, or what do you think happens if I insert a couple more spaces between options 1 and option 2?
Nothing.
All right, so then we might as well just collapse this. There's one
And the
other thing that
EM
no one's
for
called out yet.
emphasis. Sorry.
EM is for emphasis, yes. Something else that you perhaps see, or
took
I'll
the
stay quiet.
comment out.
So you'll notice this part is on the left-hand side, but you don't see it on the right-hand side. So if I do some magic, and now I've changed this, there were these symbols up top and symbols down below. I've taken them away. And the way you can say, hey, Doenet, I want you to update the document with the changes that I've made is there's this nice handy update button. You can also press Command or Control S to do the same. And now you'll notice that there's something here that says left code, right rendered, output. But notice that output is immediately followed by option 1. Why do you think that might be the case?
Because there's no P in between to move it to a new line.
So what do you guys think a P thing does? I'm calling it a thing for purpose right now.
Paragraph? Starting
It's
in
a
paragraph.
paragraph. So you're essentially telling Doenet, I don't want the user to see this stuff on the left-hand side. It's maybe for my own notes or whatever the case might be. So I can comment it out as one would do in a programming language. But anything that has this less than, exclamation mark, 2 dashes, and then the same thing at the end without the exclamation is essentially telling Doenet, just ignore this part. This does not exist, but it's on the screen somewhere. So
I
you
may
might
have
want
missed
to
it. What's the hotkey for comment?
command and then /.
Thank you.
So if you go to a specific line, you don't even have to highlight it. If you just hover over the line and press command and then S or control, sorry, not S, command and then / or control and /, it will comment that line out. And if you repeat that keystroke, it will uncomment it out. And command S or control S to update the change on the right-hand side. Now, Doenet ML, or because it's a markup language, it's related to XML. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dwayne. I just write things. I don't know all the technical genealogy behind where Doenet comes
Yeah,
from.
it's pretty close to XML, yeah.
So Doenet is organized in, well, actually, I have questions. You didn't know all this stuff down here was a thing. All right, so 3 questions. What parts of the code above seem to control what you see on the right-hand side? What do the angle brackets seem to be doing? And what do you think happens if I change something? I'm being vague on purpose there.
Angled brackets appear to be a command. Like I'm about to type a command. So I don't know. I'm thinking LaTeX. So is it similar to the equivalent of the backslash? Like I'm about to give a. I guess it's not a command, but the angled bracket says something special about P, right? It doesn't type the character P. It's
Perfect.
new P, right?
So that, in the language of Doenet ML, is a component or a tag. It is, I guess, somewhat equivalent in spirit to the backslash in LaTeX. That something special is about to happen. And the difference, however, here is that anytime you have an opening tag, so if I were to open a P tag, I have to close it as well. Now, what do you think happens between the opening and the closing of the tag? Well, that's where the text goes. So if I want to create a new line or a new paragraph that has the text inside of it, Well, I do exactly that. So that is what the angle brackets seem to be doing. So now what do you think would happen if I wrote x and then I opened a p tag and I said is a variable? If you had to guess, what do you think would happen here?
I would guess is a variable goes to a new line, but I don't know.
Any other guesses?
X probably doesn't look very good.
Both correct. Doesn't look good and goes to the next line. How would I make it look good without it going off to the next line?
Is that M tag?
So we stick an M tag around it. And now it looks good, but it's still on the next line.
Yeah.
How do you think we
Just
place them
inside
on
the
the same
P.
line? So two options. Either I can take away the p tag entirely, but I like the p tag. I want it there. But if I move the math, well, it's not a math component, but there is a separate math component which we'll get to at some point of time. But the M is, you can think of it as just display mode. You're just displaying a bunch of math, or LaTeX can go inside M. Now,
Which is the
what do you...
equivalent of the dollar sign in LaTeX?
Sure, it's a delimiter. You can think of it as that. Now, what do you think happens if I write x is less than 5 is an inequality?
The less than probably won't work. Is my guess.
Oh, man. She knows too much. Okay, one very, very common mistake that I kept running into when I was learning Doenet for the first time is the angle bracket. Doenet seems to think that anytime you have an angle bracket, a component is about to appear to the right of it. So Doenet doesn't recognize 5 as a component of Doenet ML. So what you always have to do is, if you're writing a less than for the sake of writing a less than, and it's not the beginning of a component, you have to put a space around it. The same thing with a greater than as well, because it's going to think you're about to close one of the components. Now that displays just fine. Now, something else that we haven't explicitly talked about is, well, or maybe I'll ask the question and leave it be. What do you think is happening here? Again, I'm being vague on purpose. Describe to me what you see.
Well, it looks like you've got paragraphs within paragraphs, but I don't see it in the compilation, so I'm not sure.
I'll give it to you. It's the fact that you can nest components. That you can take a component and place it inside another component. So imagine you have a large cardboard box. Within that cardboard box, you can have smaller boxes, and within each of those boxes, or perhaps many of them, you can have smaller boxes still. So to achieve whatever outcome you're looking for, you can say that I want to create a new paragraph that has to do with option 3. So that's this thing on the right-hand side. And within that paragraph, I want to have a new paragraph that has the words hello world in them, or on it. And then underneath that, in a separate paragraph, I want to have the expression x plus 2 on it as well.
And you notice it's getting mad at you because that's actually not legal, don't it? But whatever, you get the idea.
I was trying to get across just the fact that you can nest things. And yes, this is a fight that I've been losing with Dwayne for a long time. Just because Doenet's mad doesn't mean you can't do it. Dwayne didn't hear that. But there are lots of things that you can make Doenet do that Dwayne doesn't like. But that's okay.
We try to make it forgiving.
Now, shall we move into the task then? Okay, I will explain the task very quickly. There are things that are broken here. So I'm going to share a link. And here's how you might share your own document. I hope that you do in the future. You click on the word share or the share button. You click on share publicly, and you get a shareable link. So I'll drop this in the chat. And once you open it, or once you click on the link, it might show up in read-only mode. And then, Dwayne, what was the... I'm not... Ah.
If they
So
don't
it'll
have
look something
account,
like this. It'll be grayed out on the left-hand side, so you won't be able to edit it.
You load into Scratchpad or
Sure, you can do that. So you can click on Add To on the top right corner of your screen, and then you can load it into Scratchpad. So it won't save any of your progress, but you can play around with it without having to do anything else.
and you don't need an account. The other options that we have are only you have to first log into beta.donet.org, but this you can do anonymously.
So for now, the first part of the task is I want you all to fix the errors, make the errors go away. So do that individually and independently, or if you have trouble with anything, feel free to just unmute and talk to us. And once you're done with that, then I'll move us along.
Can I ask a question while we're doing this?
Sure.
You alluded to, so I've seen some examples that have math instead of M. What's the difference? I know you said we might get to it later.
I think Dwayne's probably better suited to answer this.
Well,
I have a very silly understanding of it, but
click on the
Dwayne, you can
load
probably...
button. See, click the
Yeah.
load button in
Yeah.
the Scratchpad, and you'll
Mm-hmm.
see. How can you do that so you can all see it?
Oh, yeah.
Where's my mouse? Sorry.
And then you'll see there's mathematical tags in Doenet. So the quick answer is, I mean, go to that page and we'll outline a little bit more. But I'm not actually not that one. There was another one that said second one from the bottom. This is one that explains the difference between an M tag and a math tag. We're not going to actually talk about that in detail here, just because we're excited to talk about other stuff. But basically, M tag just lets you do LaTeX. If you do a math tag, then you get a whole computer algebra system behind it,
Ah,
and do
okay.
calculations with it. And it's
Cool.
actually
Thank you.
normally you don't do math, you don't do LaTeX. It's typically a different syntax. But
Okay.
so
Thank you.
math is the computer algebra system. M is just math jacks or
Okay.
LaTeX.
The rendering.
Mhm.
Okay.
Oops. Sorry about that.
I don't know if mine is right, but it doesn't have any more error messages. Is that good?
We'll give Lauren and Megan a chance to catch up, but yeah, let me know once you're done and you're error free.
I'm done.
I think I'm done also.
Okay, so how do we fix these errors? We'll do it together. Tell me what to do and where.
There needs to be open P on line 12, less than P at the start of line 12, less than P, greater than.
Yep.
And then end it at the end of line 13.
And voila. Now, next thing I'd like us to take a look at is if we see this question mark with a circle around it, there's a help button. If we click on it, this thing drops down, and we can go to the documentation by clicking on that button. There's other ways to get there as well, but that when I'm writing activities, that tends to be the fastest way to get there. So again, click on the question mark icon, click on documentation, and then at that stage, this page should show up. If we click on reference, this is a listing of most, if not all, of the Doenet components. I know it's not completely caught up, but the overwhelming majority of components are there. If we go down to S, there's something called a section. If we click on it, you'll notice that it says that section is a sectional component that renders an auto-numbered block of content. So you can think of section in Doenet just like you would a section in LaTeX, or a section in Word for that matter. So what I would like for us to do next, and I'm not going to tell you how, you're welcome to scroll down and look at the examples down below. So there's rendered output on the right-hand side, there's Doenet ML on the left-hand side. What I would like for you all to do is create a section that is boxed around these three things and call it examples. So I would like to have a section that has a title of examples. Let's start with that. We'll worry about boxed second. So see if you can figure out how to put a section in the Doenet ML and place those three examples within it.
When you went to the question mark documentation at the documentation page, I missed it. There was a chart of tags. What was the link to see those tags?
References, or
References.
reference
So
rather.
the first option. Thank
Correct.
you.
Reference. So we go to reference, and then that's the listing. Sometimes you can search for it using this box on the top right corner. If I know what I'm looking for, I can just quickly click on this instead of having to scroll up and down, but different ways of getting there.
Can I ask another question while people are working?
Sure.
So I'm guessing I don't remember some of these being options in pretext, and so I'm guessing you can't take this exactly and put it in a pretext document. Do you have to use the kind of interactive to insert it in a pretext document, if that makes any sense at all?
Yeah. So currently, we want to be able to have a way of like exporting it into pretext, but well, yeah. For now, it has to go into interactive. So you have
Okay.
to, if you go to the sample article and you click and you look for Doenet, it gives you an example of how to.
Yeah, you embed it that way. You can't
You
just copy paste.
can't copy and paste it currently. That's right.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
So this task is to create a section with containing option 1, 2, and 3, and it needs a title or it needs a box, or which one are we on?
Both, but first I'd like to make sure that we get a section in there and we have a title of just the section, not the entire document, that says examples. So task 1A is create a titled section around the three examples called examples. And then if you're done with that, you're welcome to move on and see if you can find a way to put a box around that section. And if you need a hint, feel free to reach out. Lauren, are you finished as well? I think Jonathan was done.
Yep.
Okay, so someone tell me what to do.
Um, you would do section, the ta section tag.
Which line am I placing it in?
Oh, 11, line 11.
Line
And then
11.
it auto
So,
does the close section tag for me. And then
all
I
right.
would copy paste that to the end of your three options. And then back to line 11 at the end. Uh, and I would do the title tag and then put whatever text in between the title.
All right. Were we able to box the section?
Yeah. Put
How would we
boxed
accomplish that?
in the section tag when you
So
start it.
that is called an attribute. Components have attributes. Attributes modify attributes and properties, or attributes first. Attributes modify the behavior of the component. So you have a section, what creates a section. Everything inside of it goes inside of that section. If you want to put a decorative box around it, then you just give it an attribute boxed. Now there are many, many other attributes, and all of them are mentioned here. So some of them are Boolean. This has to do with aggregating all the scores of all the problems within that section. Boxed is one that we just used. Completed color I'll share once we get to a cascade, but there's a bunch of customization that you can do, or a bunch of modifications that you can make to whatever section you have. If you're creating a test, for instance, you can turn off show correctness as an attribute for an answer component. So it'll submit student work, but it won't tell the student whether the work is correct or not, or the answer that they've submitted is correct or not. Next thing is now open-ended. If you click on where it says instructions, this is an example of an aside. So an aside is a sectional component that is always collapsed by default. You can change that behavior, but a section... Can I make a section collapsible, Dwayne?
No, it doesn't seem to have that attribute. I was
Okay,
just
so you
doing
cannot collapse a section. A section is just open at all times. An aside can be collapsed. So typically I'll place instructions within it. I don't want the instructions to take up vertical space on the screen at all times. You should be able to open it, read the instructions, and then just refer them whenever you want to. So now what I would like for you to do is make the thing that you see underneath look exactly like this. So I need something that says introduction. I need this is fun. Underneath it, I want to learn more. There's a box around this structure. There is no box around the second structure. So see if you can accomplish that. And again, if you need help, feel free to ask.
And while they're doing that, Anurag, you can work on your task, which is to get rid of your accessibility violation.
I finished.
There you go. And I realize those instructions are ambiguous. It says you must add a short space description. It's not clear that it's not a description that's short rather than a tag that's called short description, but I need to think about what to do about that.
That's your task. Lauren, I'm just noticing now. Are you saying got it for the new task or new subtask?
Uh, just the copying
Yep.
the introduction. Was there another task?
Nope, that was it.
Okay.
Megan's there as well. Jonathan, let us know when you're there.
I don't have the number in front of my section yet, but the boxed and the so I'm not quite there yet, but
All right. I'm curious, Lauren and Megan, how did you get the number in the front?
I have a two. I don't have a one. And so I'm realizing that's probably a mistake.
I just
I,
made my title one dot introduction. Was
Fair
that
enough. So what happens if you have, oh, I don't know, 17 sections and you're going to move them around and you're jumbling them because you're reorganizing your set of notes?
I did
Um,
include auto number equals true,
so maybe
but
there's an attribute that allows you to automatically number your sections. So you're not having to keep track of them as you copy paste them around all over the place. So maybe take a look at the attributes, see if that helps.
And then if you actually want it to be number one, you can delete the instructions.
okay, thank you.
All right, because I took a screenshot before I had the instructions, so that
Right.
I could
So the
stick the
aside
instructions in there.
is counted with the sections.
Apparently,
Okay.
I can't remember why it does or whatever, but obviously it seems to be. Seems like it shouldn't, but whatever. Oh, you can include auto number to an aside, so I guess it makes sense that it's counted with all of them. But I was surprised as well that that's. uh,
All right, well, outside of the two, are we more or less there? Jonathan, were you able to find that attribute? Okay. Any questions on just basic use of the editor on the left hand side, updating things, what a component is, and how you can nest them? Are we all feeling comfortable with that? All right, then, Dwayne, I think you're next.
okay. You guys need like a quick stretch break or anything? Okay.
Rolling, man.
Let me find my notes. Mhm. Okay, what am I doing? I am now doing, okay. So I'm gonna go back to my slides. Now we're Zoom. There we go. All right. So the section two, this next idea is to talk about automatically graded answers, and in particular, we're going to think about mathematical answers. Um, so far we've talked about tags or components. These are two words. We talked about attributes, paragraph, section, and title tag. And now what we want to do in this session is to talk about the answer tag to add interactivity. And there's lots of different kinds of answers you can do. We saw at the introduction that you could do like graphical answers, you can do multiple choice answers, there's lot of different kinds of things. I'll just talk about one just to keep it brief so you can play around with it. So I'm just going to talk about math answers. So let's go back to our web browser. And if you load the math answer example template, and again, it's going to blow away all your work. So if you want to save how you figured out to do include auto numbers or whatever, you got to copy and paste that somewhere. It will go away once you click on this math answer examples. Okay, everybody there? All right, so let's talk about how to create mathematical answers. And we are going to start with basically the simplest thing. And so if you look on line 12, if you type answer to x, that creates this answer box over here. So go ahead and try answering this to see, play around with what this answer to x is doing. Try typing in different types of answers and just kind of explore what it does.
It does accept 2 times x.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It will end with an asterisk, 2 times x, or
It
Yeah,
accepts an unreduced fraction x, so 4 over 2, I presume 6 over 3, 10 over 5x.
mm-hmm.
For me, it accepted x plus x.
X plus x. Yeah, so this is probably not the mode you want for teaching arithmetic. But by default, it does anything that's mathematically equivalent. So not exact, well, whatever, yeah. So I think it'll even do sine squared of y plus cosine squared. I shouldn't do a demo like this. Y minus 1 plus 2x. Yeah, I think that's fine too. But there are ways of getting around it. But we figure out the very basic thing. We'll just accept anything that's mathematically equivalent. Um, I do want to take advantage of one little interlude here because I can't help myself. Is notice this little, did you guys notice this little squiggly underline here? If you do this, it says, you just violated accessibility standards. This is not WCAG accessible violation. It's not doesn't meet WCAG uh, guidelines. And in fact, you see this big little WCAG over here. And if I click on it, it kind of opens up this, the same thing as right here, opens up this and says, okay, you have some problems here. And in particular, one of the principles for accessibility is that everything has to have a label or some kind of way of a screen reader knowing what this is. And since you just wrote answer to x, there's no information that we can give to a screen reader to tell them what in the world this box is about. I mean, we can't tell them the right answer. That sort of defeats the purpose. And I suppose they could make the screen reader say, yes, this is the answer. Its correct answer is 2x, but that's not really what we want. And so what you need to do is you need to give it some information. And the simplest way, the way that we typically recommend, is to give it a label. So if you scroll down to line 22, which is right here, this looks, if I get rid of these two lines look exactly the same. But this one doesn't have the squiggly lines under it. I mean, this line 22 doesn't, because you put a label under here. And now when a screen reader goes here, it can realize that, well, what goes in here is what is x plus x. And so the screen reader, when you tab over there in the screen reader, the screen reader user can say, okay, what I'm supposed to put in here is what is x plus x. That makes sense? And, if I had done the same thing here, label, well, of course, now it's labeled twice, but now I would get rid of this instead. Or actually, I'll just move this whole thing in there. Now I get a little happy green guy over here, which means I have no accessibility guidelines, violations, and I'm happy. So just a quick point. There's also another option if you want to give something to the screen reader that you don't want to be visual. You can also put in something called a short description. But typically, I recommend using a label. I'm not going to get into a lot more about accessibility, but I just wanted to point that out. And to point out that if you want to read more about accessibility, there's another document um, in the list from Scratchpad is about accessibility pointers. So it goes into this a little bit more, talks about different ways of making things accessible in Doenet. But I'm going to go back to math answer examples, unless there's any particular question or anything else you want me to go into a little bit more detail about accessibility. Okay. I am going to skip over a lot of the rest of the stuff. You can read about some of the stuff on your own. You can read about symbolic equality. When I do symbolic equality, no, then x plus x is no longer an answer, but 2x is. But for our task, the thing I want to play around with is I want you to play around with partial credit. So I'm going to show you examples 4 and 5, which on the left side is, at least on mine, I don't know if I add any lines, but it's line 66 on the left and line 83. So let's talk about how to add partial credit. The way to add partial credit is twofold. First of all, you need to take your answer over here where we had answer just 2x. This is actually shorthand for putting award in it. So we actually have to get rid of the shorthand. We have to actually explicitly put an award around our 2x. So that didn't do anything. That's the same, but this is a little sort of more verbose way of saying things. Okay, this is what I want you to award. I want you to award 2x. So step 1 is to go to the more verbose uh, result, or more we call it markup, where you put an award there. And then you can have multiple awards. And so play around with this answer here and see if it can make sense for like what it's doing when you put in different stuff.
Can I ask a question about it?
Sure.
So it looks like it's not giving credit for something like x cubed over 3 plus c plus 7. Is if you want it to consider all equivalent things like it was earlier, is there a way to?
So we don't currently have a Doenet idea of putting it, because you can see the answer here is x cubed plus 3 plus c, right?
Right.
But well, it's a little, you'd have to do something more complicated using a formula to let them put an additional, like a number and evaluate that as a number, or things like that. So
Okay.
that would,
Or plus, what if the arbitrary constant was C or another character?
right. Like none of those things are come naturally. You can either enumerate them all, which of course are a lot of numbers. So you might have a lot of awards. You want to allow every number in there. They're only 26 letters. Times 2 if you want capital and lowercase. So you can put 52 answers there. Or,
Anything over
That's only in
five,
the
I don't
English
want to type.
alphabet, Dwayne.
Right.
yeah. So, right. So then you need to do something more complicated. We're not going to get into that. You can do answers based on formulas and do calculations if you wanted to calculate the right answer that way.
Is that how you would do like randomized things?
No, for the randomized things, I would create a
No, no,
component.
no, no, no. Dwayne, don't answer that
Talk about
question.
today? Why?
The answer to that question will be available in a different workshop.
Oh,
Okay. Okay.
I'm not supposed to say it, but you create it. There's a component that will create different variants of different letter like numbers. Like Yeah, it'll get
Okay.
something. It'll be either the number one, two, or three, or whatever you want. So we have a
Okay.
You can use select or select from sequence or select prime numbers or select random numbers if you describe the distribution. Uh,
Okay.
but yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
but hopefully you saw how the partial credit worked, right? You just say credit. So by default, an award is credit equals one. So if you don't specify anything, it's the same thing as if credit were equal to one. But then if you can give a partial credit here, and you can get feedback based on that, but we're not going to do that. X Q, what was it? X cubed over 3, and now I get to 50%. Now take a look at this one and see what the behavior of that is. And then try to figure out from the markup why it has the behavior that you're noticing.
Is there a reason to have the award on this one?
I don't know. It looks better to me when I put a short description in there. I don't know. Does it work? How
Sure.
you do it?
It worked for me.
Okay.
Just didn't know if I was missing something.
No, it probably should be fine. I just think it looks
Okay.
better.
Yeah, sure.
But I wouldn't be confident. So now I can do two. Okay, yeah. I guess it works fine. That makes sense. You guys still figuring out? Okay, so you can see how it happened, right? You have these two attributes. So do these you feel like you have a good confidence on what the attributes on order to compare and match partial do? I mean, the only match partial only works if somehow Doenet can figure out the different pieces to your answer. Like in this case, there's obviously two pieces, so it will give you half credit for each piece. And it's also clearly something you can order. So okay, cool. Now your turn. I'll paste this into the chat, but here are here's your exercise. Let's see, where's this? Paste that in the chat so you don't have to stare at the screen. But the idea is to allow a different number, be 80% credit, a different letter here, and then change it so that the answer must be the answers must be in increasing order. And then you can further try to figure out how to make it be case insensitive. If you have more time, or to give 70% credit if the answer is in the wrong order.
This is great timing, but I'm about to have to bow out. I'm in 5 p.m. Central Time and some family things. I need dual monitors here. Really would have been, if I was at work, it'd be great. But Thank you guys. I will check back in another time.
Sounds
But
good.
this is a great start for me.
Great. Yeah, keep in touch.
All right, thank you,
Glad to meet
Nice to
guys.
you.
meet you, Jonathan. Take
All right,
care.
appreciate it.
So you guys making progress? I assume the thumbs up means you're good. How's it going, Megan?
Okay.
Any
So
question?
for the second one, it gives 50% credit if they're not in the correct order.
Mm-hmm.
If you just take um the unordered attribute out.
Right. So what if you wanted 0% for that? What would you do?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. Um,
Or
yes.
maybe that's the right answer, actually. I mean, because you could get rid of the match partial, but then yeah, you can't have it both. You can't both have like 5 be 50% and 5 comma negative 2 be 0%. I don't think there's an easy way of doing that. So I think what you did, I would say, is probably the answer I was looking for.
I used match by exact positions. Do you not need that?
Okay, that would be another way of wording it. So then what happens then? And what if you just put a five by itself?
Let me go back. I've already forgotten. Let's see.
I forgot about that attribute. Then
Then, or let's see, -5. It still gives 50% with the match partial still there.
but does the -5 have to be in the first or second entry, or does it matter what entry?
It doesn't matter if I'm only entering.
If you're
Let's see
only
if
doing
oh,
okay.
if I only enter two, it only gives me 35%
Match by
because it's in the wrong order. Ah,
yeah. So if I do this what you did, unordered, wait, if I got rid of unordered compare, probably.
yeah, that's what I did.
So if
So
I
it's still
do,
not.
what does it do? I don't know. If I do -5, it's not right. If I do two, then I do, yeah, I mean, this is kind of what I would expect.
Okay.
So there are different attributes depending on what you want. Like so match exact positions if you're doing something like a vector and you really if you switch X and Y, that's like completely wrong and something has to be in the second position, third position. If you just got rid of um if you got rid of match exact positions, then like if the answer is 1, comma 2, comma 3, 2, comma 3 would give you 2/3 because you're just missing the one, but it's okay that it's shifted over. So we give you these different options.
Yeah, that makes more sense. Thank you.
So it depends on whether it's like a slots or just an ordered list. Okay. And you found the case insensitive match attribute, and then you can just add another award in there if you wanted to. How did you get the last one, the 70%?
Change credit to 0.7.
But then do you get it correct? But can you get it 100%? So the last task, the idea is 100% if you get them in the right order, but if you get them in the
Mm-hmm.
wrong order, then you get 70%.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you did?
Mm-hmm.
So how did you do that?
Let me double check that yeah, award credit 0.7 in the wrong order.
Okay, all right. So you put two awards in there, right? Right.
Yeah.
Because you can, yeah, that makes sense. All right. Well, I think we probably should move on to the last, unless there's any other questions or things you want to talk about as far as answers go. We were talking a little bit about formulas. If you look at this one kind of shows you how to do formulas, but that's and covers things we haven't even talked about today. So I wasn't going to get into that, but there are examples where you can use a formula.
All right, then I'll move into the next portion. I forgot to ask. Megan and Lauren, what types of courses do you teach?
I teach some developmental courses.
Define developmental. Means very different at a community college in South Florida versus, I don't know, MIT.
It's pretty developmental. It's pretty middle school math is
Okay.
my one.
Ah, so you're
Um,
teaching the same stuff I'm teaching. Cool.
some some high school math. Um, yeah.
Cool. Lauren?
I teach mostly business statistics and then some descriptive analytics and data visualization, but mostly statistics.
All right. I teach at a community college in South Florida. My course assignments typically are intermediate algebra, which is algebra 1 in middle school or beginning high school, depending on when you take it, to maybe Calc 2. I've had some Calc 3, some differential equations, but those don't pop up too often. Usually, by the time students are ready to take that, they go to the university across the street, to start their junior years. So this was a structure that I needed because most other platforms where you're trying to ask students to add fractions, uh, you'll have a question and then there'll be an answer box to the right of it or under it where students type in the answer. The problem I was facing for many, many years with those types of questions and that type of interaction was students could just use Mathway or Photomath or over the pandemic, over the past few years, these AI solvers have really taken over. Uh, I decided to go a different route instead of saying, this is AI proof, and I'm not claiming that to be the case whatsoever. I have found, and student evaluations have confirmed, that this is just more annoying to cheat with. So the big secret ingredient is take the problem you wish for students to solve and smash it to bits into small, tiny pieces, and have them solve each one of those individually. But, so as an example, here's one on just teaching students how to add fractions. So, well, first you need to tell me which of the smaller of the two denominators. So you see, okay, it's 3, and the larger one of the two is 11. And once you've done that, then I will ask you more questions. But unless you've answered that question, I'm not even going to take your focus away from just the tiniest morsel of whatever the task is requiring. And Doenet has wonderful tools or wonderful components with in terms of how you want the information to be presented. So you can say, okay, show the whole thing at once, don't hold anything back, versus hold tiny bits of pieces back. And you'll notice that these two things have not opened yet because there are things in this section that have not been answered correctly. So I know where the secret buttons are. The students would have to answer this. They wouldn't know that they can just type in the LCD and... Oh, never mind. I lied.
That was your old way. Now that you're using the
That
automatic,
was the old way.
I was like, how did you figure out how to do that with the new system?
No, I messed that up. Okay, so now you have to see me type in multiples of 11.
I don't know. I just programmed this all up, and you have like I programmed, but now we've made it a lot easier.
So now once you've answered that part correctly, then this next piece opens up. So the first thing is I need you to identify what denominators are, which is a big struggle for a lot of students in my course. And you can imagine maybe it's not the same exact thing you're struggling with, but there's probably some, atomic level truth that maybe your students are having an issue with mastering. Once you've done that, then the next bit of information shows up, and you'll notice D, the answer choice for D has not shown up because there's going to be something there that tells them what this answer should be. So that's not going to populate until this answer is marked correct. So 11, what do you multiply by 11? You get 3. So here you have to multiply this fraction by 3 over 3, and I want you to explicitly write those numbers out. On paper, what ends up happening is students will write 7 over 11 times, and then they'll just write a single 3. No, that's not even correct. You're changing the problem I'm giving you. Those two things are not, those expressions are not the same. So this hopefully forces them to wrestle with that, and then whatever answer they type here gets echoed here. But I only want to show them this once they've answered this correctly. So that's why you didn't see that this question appeared earlier. So I think this more or less gets the story across. One other thing that's maybe not as small, but is a lot more detailed, is something like this, where there's a procedural thing that I want them to learn. And I have given them videos in the past. They press play, and then they go watch Netflix on TV, or they go to Walmart, or they just leave. So having them watch videos was entirely useless. Take videos, they would just dump the YouTube link into some LLM. It would recognize whatever the transcript was, and it would give them a 5-point summary of this is what you said. There's no understanding of what they actually did. So what I asked for Dwayne to create was this component called a cascade, which essentially does what is shown here. There are different steps to solving this problem. Once you solve this problem correctly, just that part, so 3x minus 7 is less than 10, 5, 3 over 4. then the next bit will open up. Now here, this has nothing to do with solving this exact inequality. I'm taking them a little bit further back and saying which of these doesn't even make sense to solve, because absolute values of quantities have to be positive or, well, non-negative. And once you've done that, then more stuff opens up. So I think I'm beating a dead horse here, but as maybe a tease for the next workshop, you'll notice that these are different variants. So if I press D, notice what happens to these numbers here. Different students in the class get their own problems. So if you're assigning this for out-of-class work, like I do, I want them to have solved this problem before they come to class. Each student is getting their own variant. So, Lauren cannot do her work and then sell it to Megan for $60 for the entire semester. Every student invariably gets their own problem. One other thing, this is something I used yesterday for one of my final exams. I don't give them a question, or I don't give them the equation of a line. They get to choose a slope. So let's say we choose a slope of -6, and they choose a slope of -7. Once they've done that, there's a linear function. Now I want them to graph it. So they can go back and say, I don't know how to graph this one. Okay, we'll pick different numbers for your slope and the y-intercept. And let's see if I can do the math correctly. Once you've done that, the line appears, and you'll notice more things happen in the future. The one thing I want to point out outside of the cascade structure that you can do with Doenet is students do not like these types of things. Make a line that's perpendicular to this one, but the standard way of asking this question, at least the one that I'm most familiar with, is write the equation of a line perpendicular to y equals -6x minus 7, passing through, and then there's a point that's given. I don't want them to do that, because that, they can memorize a certain procedure without understanding why they're doing the thing they're doing. Here, they have to use, the line that I've given them, but you'll notice that the moment I put this point on the line, there's a little feedback thing that says, don't pick any points on the graph of f of x. If you know what you're doing, you can ignore this temporarily and say, I'm just going to put the second dot here and then work backwards from there. Because that then shows that you actually understand why you're doing the thing you're doing, as opposed to, whatever. The other thing you can do is pick any point you want and move 6 units away in that direction. And say that the fact that this line is going to be perpendicular to this line has nothing to do with any of the points on this line. The slope relationship is what I'm testing, or I'm testing their understanding of the slope relationship. So Doenet has these wonderful mouse-trappy things that you can do to circumvent, well, how do you even stick this into ChatGPT? I don't know. So I felt fairly good about asking this question on the final. The next thing that I've done very frequently in my class, I copy this from the K through 12 system. They have these things called circuits, which I think Dwayne demoed earlier, or maybe that was a pretzel. So a circuit says, start with this problem. You have to start with that question. You solve this problem and you look for the answer. So x is equal to 8. This becomes problem 2. Then you solve that problem, and then you look for the answer, and that one becomes number 3. Then we evolve this to become pretzels, which is to say it's a circuit, but you can start wherever you like. So oftentimes, if you tell a student to start with a top left question and they don't know how to access that question, they just shut down, confidence issues, and yada, yada, yada. But if you say, okay, well, I don't know how to solve that one, but I can solve something else that's on the sheet of paper, okay, start there. And usually I'm doing this with students in groups of maybe 4 or 5 in class. So every student can start in a different part of the activity and then, neatly sew it together by the end. Recently, we created these things. I have to change the name. It was previously poorly named pretzels with toppings. Now we call them salty pretzels, because students often feel quite salty after solving these things. Let's see, I have to... Look for one that's a good problem. Dwayne, do you see one immediately? Okay, this one. Let's say this is the first question. Obviously, the answer is x equals 2, but what's the issue? There is no x equals 2 in the pretzel. So this is a distractor. You would need to mark it as x and then go find a new problem to start. So what you can do is take very commonly made mistakes, put them as answers to problems that are distractors to call their attention to it. So if you're within a pretzel, if you're within a loop and you solve everything correctly and you don't make a mistake, you will stay within the loop forever, or until you come back to where you start. But if you make a mistake that students will commonly make, you'll exit the loop, and you'll run into a distractor, hopefully. Now, if you make too many mistakes, then obviously there's no accounting for that. But I found that this worked a lot better than just giving students these 6 equations on a standard worksheet and saying solve these 6 problems, because that's something that they've seen since middle school. If, at least in my context, if I give them the same thing, they zone out and they don't want to do it. And here's how I think this is maybe what Dwayne was alluding to. This is how I used to write circuits in the past before there was a pretzel component, where you had to manually determine where the answer to each question was and then shuffle it, and it was painful. Now it's quite simple. So let's make a new document. That's how you make one. How many problems would we like in this demo pretzel? Pick a number.
You're muted. I couldn't hear you. Oh.
What's typically a good number, do you think, for these?
All right. Let me answer that question with a mini demo. So this is one I did, well, not recently, but I guess within the last month. So this is solving rational equations. And what is this? 4, 6, 12 problems. But this is a salty pretzel, so they don't know how many problems there really are. This one, I think, was an 8-4 split or a 9-3 split. Students were able to finish this in about an hour. So
Nice.
it depends on the comfort, the mathematical maturity of the students you're dealing with, what the size of each problem is. So if you're talking about simplifying radicals, those pretzels end up being maybe 36 to 40 problems because they're very short, quick strikes.
Yeah.
Versus for something like this, I would say no more than 8 or 9 if you're aiming for an hour.
Okay. And can you have multiple distractors?
You can have as many distractors as you like.
Nice. Okay.
The instructions, I never tell students how many distractors there are. I just say some problems are distractors. And the really salty pretzels are ones where there are no distractors and students are looking for one. So, but again, the goal is to get them to be confident in that what they're writing on paper, they can defend. And if they can defend it, it must be correct. And if they can't defend it, then that's where confidence building needs to happen. So they don't know if they've done the problem incorrectly or if the problem's a distractor. And you don't get feedback until you've solved, well, not solved, but you've committed to an answer for each question. So if you cannot periodically check to say, oh, if this is problem 1 and this is 2, am I on the right path? No. Either the whole thing is done correctly or it isn't. So it marginally, to borrow Dwayne's phrase, gamifies things. You're still having them do the same exact problems that they would have been doing under different circumstances, but it hides the fact that it's a worksheet for a little bit. And feedback from students I've done this now for 3 semesters, and feedback has been fairly positive. So back to the question, how many problems should we make a pretzel with? Punt. Give me a number.
9? 8.
Well, let's do 9 because we've seen 8 so far, or even numbers so far. So if we start typing pretzel, you'll notice that Dwayne's created these nice little templates. So if I just do pretzel and I press enter, that's the top option, I will just get the pretzel component, and now I can type things in manually, but it doesn't give me the template structure. However, if I do pretzel 8, or let's do 10 and then we can delete one, this will create a pretzel template that has 10 problems in it. So if I press enter, well, we have 10 problems, and I can delete the 10th question, and I'll have 9 problems. Now you'll notice that this is this awkward empty space. How do you think we could make it an even number of columns? Or not even, but sort them so that there's no empty spaces.
Change the number of columns.
To
3. Ooh,
what happened?
I don't know.
So if we go to view, the editor window will often not have enough space here. So even though you changed it to 3, sometimes you have to make this a little bit wider to see what it would have done. Otherwise, I usually just go to the view pane. I don't know what the correct word is, but you go to the view tab and you look at the activity, how it would look to a user or to a student. So it does have 3 columns, even though you might only see 2 here.
Unless they're on a phone, then it'll be 1 column probably, but yeah.
Yeah. And we can show you that here. It automatically adjusts based on the amount of space you have. Dynamically adjusts, whatever the technical phrase is. Now, the nice thing here is you can get started with taking a bog standard, I can call it now, a boring old PDF or a boring old worksheet. And the problem statement goes here. So what is, I don't know, 1 plus 2. So that goes there, and you place the answer here. Oops. And if you'd like to know how to randomize this, come back next week. But you can do this, and there's the problem. Now, historically, what I had to do was place 1 plus 2 in one spot and then marry the answer in a different spot, and I had to make sure that the next problem in sequence had the answer 3 above it, which made modifying circuits once they had been built just a giant mess because it was bad. It still is probably bad. What Dwayne has done, to his credit, and this is where I'm very fond of the community, you make reasonable feature requests and they just happen to show up. Sometimes you just have to poke Dwayne a bit, but ultimately he'll always do fun things. So you take your standard problem set, second problem goes here, the answer to that goes there, the third problem goes there, the answer to that goes there. You don't necessarily have to know how to create this from scratch because you can just use the template. Now, I create pretzels with distractors, so let's say we want the 8th and the 9th problems to be a distractor. Maybe there's an attribute. If you had to guess, what do you think would be the attribute for making something or for declaring that something is a distractor?
Maybe a distractor equals true.
That doesn't work.
No. No.
Dwayne is very, very literal.
Fake? I don't know. I'm just guessing.
I'll give it a wait in the interest of time. Is distractor. Problem is distractor. So if you can have that attribute for however many problems you wish to. So you can have 3 distractors or 4 distractors or however many distractors you like. Now, one thing I have noticed is that the distractors need to be at the end because the way I guess the pretzel component is structured is that it's looking for the loop. So if you have distractors in the middle of the loop, very bad things happen. Don't ask how I found that out.
Oh, really? Can you Can you like put a message about that? Because it doesn't seem like that should be. That seems like a bad, like a flaw.
Oh, okay. I'll
I
send you a
don't know.
message
So,
about it. I
I
was
think
troubleshooting, I think, something for about 2 days, and then eventually I just put the distractor problems at the end, and then everything started working.
okay.
But
Well,
I'll reach
put,
out to you
yeah,
separately
or
about
put a
it.
message on like the community discussion or something, and I'll try to
Sure.
figure out why that because that seems like we're just asking for trouble. We're asking people to spend 2 days troubleshooting something if that has to happen. Uh,
Okay, so uh, I have a task. I think Dwayne might want to share his slides, unless I can get them quickly.
what do I have? Do I have it in my slides?
Intro slides. I think they were in there. Although it might be a better use of your time to pick problems that are useful to you. So this was the activity that I had, set aside for this task, is to create a 6-problem pretzel for factoring trinomials. Questions are on the left, answers on the right. You're welcome to use these 6, or better yet, make something that you might actually use in a class. So think about how you might take questions like these and see how you'd use them. I'm going to share one other thing while I have your attention, because this was new and I haven't yet thought about how to make this work. Uh, so in an effort to try to get students in groups talking, especially in groups where people don't, task A is assigned to student A, task B is assigned to student B, and so on and so forth. Everyone gets renewed roles every class, so the 4 of us will get one card, A, B, C, or D. And then each person has to solve their problem, and the order, the numbers in increasing order is the answer that you're looking for. So if person A or student A just refuses to do their work, you cannot move on. Everyone has to contribute. Well, ideally. So that's another little wrinkle that if you're trying to incorporate, more communication or active pacing strategies, Doenet can help you manage that as well without you having to stand over people's shoulders and saying, do your job. Doenet can kind of do that for you. So I'll stop sharing. I'm curious to see what you guys come up with.
Can I ask a question about this as I'm thinking about how I would use these?
Sure.
Um, this is awesome and seems like great things that I could have students do in class. Um, is it possible to kind of embed them in Canvas and have it be something on a quiz or an exam or something like that?
I will let Dwayne answer that.
This will eventually be possible. I mean, you can embed
Awesome.
them in Canvas, I think, but we don't have a way of like linking grades. So
Okay.
it's
If
more of like a sneaker net, download a CSV file or and import it in or retype the grades in Canvas at this point.
okay. I if you did something through pretext and then had it go through Runestone, would that
Then
track the
you could,
grades?
I think, because I think
Okay.
Moonstone has something called LTI, or it has a way of, I think you can link grades between Runestone and Canvas or whatever
Yeah.
LMS.
But it would require that step at the moment.
That's the only technology we have right now that has a
Okay.
connection with it, and that's correct.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
I know it's a bit blurry, but just as a quick detour, you can embed um, donut activities into a Google site as well. So I created this for my sabbatical work, but looks the same. But this was done as almost like a portfolio for my department to know what I had worked on. Um, Obviously, there's no grade transfers or any retention that can happen. This was just, hey, here's everything that I did over the entire year. But you do have the ability to embed Donut ML into Google Sites.
So how do you have students do like tests with it?
Um, I give them so guess I can share my screen quickly again. So what you can do is click on Create Assignment. And then you can either limit the number of attempts or you can say unlimited attempts. You can select whether you want the same variant going to every single student or you want different variants going to different students. You can assign, due dates. And if I click Create Assignment, it'll ask me which folder do you want the assignment to be placed in. So all of my assignments were living in the Spring 2026 folder. So I would go there, click Create in Spring. Yeah, the only thing is, because it didn't go in the same folder, I have to navigate to the Spring 2026 folder, go click on it, and then I have a class code, so students know that if they just go to beta.doenet.org, there's a place where they can type in the class code, or I can click on Invite Students, display the QR code, but usually I just place this link in Canvas. So like about after the first week, maybe week and a half, students just know, hey, if we're in Doenet today, we're not doing anything on paper, which was very rare. They just open Canvas, click on the link for the day, and if it's pre-class prep, then obviously it's published ahead of time, but if it's in-class work, I do want them working in groups. I don't publish it until class actually has started. But they know that that's just standard operating procedure.
And then the class code saves their work that you can see it later, or it just gives them the activity?
I don't know how much Dwayne wants me to say, so I'll let him answer that question.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I can save my questions.
No, that's
No,
fine.
the question's good.
No, you can. I mean, there's two ways. They can do it anonymously, in which then they'd be like a happy pigeon or something, and then you wouldn't know who they are. Or you can have them log in, and then they would have whatever name it is that they logged in with. This is under the reason Anurag is hesitating is because this is under flux, and we're trying to decide exactly how this should work and what feature. We're trying not to. Ideally, we'd let things like Runestone or other platforms deal with all the class management stuff. So we're trying to figure out how to do this without recreating all these LMS features in Donuts. So
Yeah.
or it's a little up in the air. So right now, all we have is this quick assign thing where you can look the QR code and they can do it. But we're in discussions of how much do we actually want to do on donut.org.
Gotcha.
But Anurag runs his class on it, so
since this is being recorded and I don't want to get into FERPA issues, if I were to click on this, it would show me a roster of my students. It would show me their grades. I could click on the grade and then I can go see, okay, I want to see Lauren's answers. And if Lauren answered or attempted to answer a question 7 times, it would show me all the historical answers. And then, whatever the answers were in the future. So I can get granular data on, how many times you attempted something. For what it's worth, I don't have all of my assessments on Doenet. I still think paper and pencil because I need to see your work. I don't want you to just type in everything. But there are some things that I do think Doenet is very, very good for. I cannot expect on paper for students to do the thing with the equations that I was showing earlier. Here's another thing that I'll share as a doorknob activity. So this would be, it's not impossible to do it on paper, but it would be quite annoying and cumbersome. So I want them, instead of solving equations that I give them, I want them to create an equation of this form, ax plus b equals c, and I need it to have a solution of 2. They're not allowed to use -1, 0, or 1 as a, b, or c. So if you know what you're doing, which is you understand the lesson that came right before this, which was what does it mean for something to be a solution to an equation, an inequality, or whatever system of equations, then all you have to do is pick a and b, plug in X and figure out what C needs to be to fit that, to have the key fit the lock. But this is the day before we actually solve linear equations. So they don't know how to solve equations. The sticky bit is, in the next question, I give you a new solution or a new target value, but you're not allowed to choose any of these numbers that you've previously used. And by the time, there's only 5 questions, but this usually takes them a very, very long time, because by the time maybe you get the first 3, after that, they, for whatever reason, just refuse to acknowledge the existence of negative numbers. So it's like, what, you want us to use big numbers? Sure, or, go on the other side of the number line. But there's productive conversations that I don't think I would be able to have if I weren't looking over their shoulders. So let's say that they do this. Now, if I try to type in 3 again, maybe I have to 2, 4, 7. So that's correct. Now, if I try 3, 2, 65. Well, it's just incorrect. But if it were correct, then it would yell at me and say, hey, you reused values 2, 3, and 5. Remember not to do that. So these are things that I feel fairly comfortable giving to them, say, on an assessment for a quick quiz at the start of class. And it's auto-graded. I don't have to worry about it. And it's very easy because I can just as well say, hey, Megan, how'd you answer number 2? And you can fairly quickly adjust or figure out if Megan did the thing herself or if there's illicit things going on. So I don't have all of my assessments on Doenet, in part, and the constraint is not Doenet, it's my own creativity. I want to write questions that are very hard to Google, but by the same argument, they cannot be so open-ended that I can't have, a grading or a validation algorithm next to them. So I need to be able to answer questions and grade them as well. All right, I recognize we're 2 minutes over. I'll share just a couple of things. Where are we? So there's this form. I'll share these links by email, but maybe this is the most important one. Next week, around the same time, we'll have a workshop on randomizing problems. So today we did everything that was static. Next week, if you come back, we'll have somewhat of a pedagogical discussion on how do you even write those questions, because you can't just expect, pick any number from 5 to 20 and then for the equation to work out in the manner that you want it to. The numbers might blow up. But we'll talk about randomizing numbers in problems that create variance for different students. The following week, on the 19th, is talking about graphs in Doenet. And then the last workshop in May is on accessibility. So with recent guidelines that came down and maybe got pushed by a year, I think it's good to just have the conversation regardless. Dwayne, do you want to mention things about these last 3 things?
Sure. We also have virtual workshops in June and July, which are just 4 days in sequence rather than once a week. So 4 days in a row, Monday through Thursday, or Tuesday through Friday. We have just a 4-day virtual workshops. And then we have if you want an in-person one and you feel like flying to Minnesota, you can come June 1 through 5. We have a few spots left for funded participants. We have a grant, so we can pay for some people. What else? Anything else in there? The mini course at MassFest. If you're going to MassFest, you can come by and learn about it there as well. Anything else we should talk about?
There's a community discussions board, which is a standard forum you might be used to. It looks nicer. There's a blog. There should be a newsletter coming out sometime soon. If you need help, there's documentation. The events and workshop page is where we are. And we do have a server on Discord and a Facebook group, both of which are there for folks to get stuck and ask for questions. I will often share an activity and ask for feedback and say, please break it or tell me how students might abuse this. So it's a great place to have conversations asynchronously, perhaps outside of workshops like these. But thank you for attending, and hopefully we'll see you again next week, and perhaps even better in Minnesota.
This is awesome. Thank you so much to both of you.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you so much.
I lied. One last doorknob thing. I will send out, or maybe Dwayne will. We'll finish the recording. We'll send you a copy of the recording if you like. But there will be a feedback form. Please, 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 if you don't mind, share feedback on what went well or what worked well and what we could do to improve these things in the future.
Sounds good. Thank
All right.
you.
All
It
right.
was nice to see
Take
you both.
care.
Take care.
Good to see you. Bye-bye.